What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. I hope everyone's doing well. So far, I've only talked about teams in a positive context. The Spurs are better than I thought. Look at what these players are averaging. I wrote about the Bulls and how much better they've been. But in this video, I'll be getting in my hater bag for the first time this season so that I can talk about the Detroit Pistons and the start they've gotten off to. Now, this is no hate towards the Pistons. I like the team quite a bit. I'm a big fan of Cade, I like both Thompson twins, and I kind of appreciate that a guy like Isaiah Stewart still exists in today's NBA, so they've been a fun team, but we need to talk. The Pistons have gotten off to a 9-2 start to this season and are the number 1 seed in the East. It's the second best record in the league, and they have the 6th highest point differential. I've only watched about 1.5 games worth of Detroit basketball so far this season, so I was surprised to see them get off to this kind of start. I wasn't so much down on the Pistons as I was higher on teams like the Hawks and Magic. It's also worth noting that Detroit started 2-2 and have won 7 straight, so they didn't get off on a great note either. But the Hawks have had some injuries mixed with a slow start, and the Magic have just not looked good. So here we are about 3 weeks into the new season, and the Pistons have risen in the place of these two underperforming teams, and credit to them. Their success has largely been off the back of who I would say are their 2 best players, that being Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren. So far, their raw production is the main thing propelling Detroit to wins. Cade is averaging 27 points and nearly 10 assists, along with almost a steal and a half per game. He hasn't been able to get his 3-ball going, sitting under 30% right now, but he has taken a legitimate leap as an inside scorer. He's getting downhill with complete ease and is much more efficient at the rim. His rip-through is stronger than ever. He was shooting about 63% in the restricted area before Monday night's overtime win against the Wizards, where he missed the most shots in a game since the merger. Down a few guys, second night of a back-to-back, Cade went out there and emptied the clip to high heaven, and I can respect that. Nonetheless, this is a meaningful improvement to Cade's floor as an offensive player, not to mention that generating paint touches collapses defenses and is a great way to create open looks. But if we're really talking about offensive leaps, then Jalen Duren is who we have to shift to. He's averaging close to 20 a game and is 5th in rebounding with 12. The 8-point increase in his scoring average from last season is accompanied with finishing 70% around the rim, down a bit from almost 73% last season, but he always has been a gifted offensive center, and he's taken about 4 more shots a game, so to maintain elite efficiency while increasing your volume is worth crediting. He's also shooting 81% from the line, way up from 67% last year, so I think there's some legitimate overall improvement to his shooting touch. The real change, though, is he looks noticeably more engaged on the defensive end and is using his insane size and physicality much better than before. Almost a block and a half a game along with a steal for Duren, this version of him is a building block I really like for Detroit. Previously, I wasn't very high on him due to those defensive shortcomings. But outside of just those two, Ausar hasn't taken the next step offensively. He's scoring 3 more points on 4 more shots. Still an incredible defensive player, don't get me wrong, but his limitations on the other end of the ball are a hindrance towards the Pistons' long-term goals. Ron Holland is averaging 9 points on 8 shots. He's less efficient than he was last year overall, but is shooting a bit better from 3. I don't know, it's not really a big part of his game at this point, but either way, he's pretty far away from making a big impact on this team. And Duncan Robinson has been alright, but isn't replicating what Malik Beasley did last season as one of the very best 3-point shooters in the league. Catch and shoot, off the dribble. Robinson's been shooting it well, but Malik was on fire that whole season and really brought a facet to this team's offense that I don't think will be fully replicated. Speaking of shooting though, Isaiah Stewart's 3-point shooting has bounced back up to the high 30s. He's at about 39%, and while it is super low volume in the grand scheme of things, he's taking about 3 of them a game, which is way more than the less than 1 attempt he was at last season. It's not a huge swing factor at all, but he's just back to being in the rotation more in general. He already has 3 starts over 4 all of last season, and his field goal attempts are back to double what they were. Again, I don't think this really makes the Pistons better, but if you can add another look without it taking away, it's not a bad thing. And beyond that, Karis LeVert and Javonte Green aren't difference makers to me, they're just kind of there. LeVert can shoot the 3 well, and shout out to Javonte for his production in the Wizards game. Anyways, when I look at where Detroit ranks among the rest of the league, I was pretty shocked at where they landed in various categories given their record. They have the 4th best defensive rating in the NBA and are 15th in offense. Now, a team that's top 5 on one end of the ball and at least middle of the pack on the other end is usually a pretty elite team. And while I don't think they're necessarily the 4th best in basketball, I do believe Detroit's defense is among the best. But the Pistons are also 15th in pace, 22nd in true shooting percentage, 15th in assist to turnover ratio, and 14th in turnover percentage. They're 17th in field goal percentage, 20th in 3-point percentage, and tied 27th in overall 3-point attempts. The Pistons also commit the most fouls out of any team in the league. The only thing they're top 10 in is their rebounding, where they average the 3rd most per game, but have only the 7th highest rebounding percentage. So I thought, okay, they're elite defensively and pretty good at rebounding, but that's it? I mean, this is what it takes to have the 2nd best record in the league and the number 1 seed in the East? Surely that can't be, so I looked closer at their record. The Pistons have had a pretty easy schedule to start out the year. Their 2 losses were to the Bulls and the Cavs, but their wins have been against teams like the Nets, Grizzlies, Mavs, and now Wizards. A lot of their opponents are quite frankly bottom of the barrel, so they haven't faced much adversity. Their only standout wins were against the Rockets in their first game. Detroit had 5 double-digit scores with no big performances, so it was just a well-rounded effort. KD also had 37 that game. Monday night's win against the Wizards, as I mentioned, it was a pretty ugly affair, but all things considered, it was just one of those games where you have to grind it out and see if you can come out on top, and Detroit did. But back-to-back, and injuries or not, they still almost lost to the 1-10 Wizards. And then their win against the Sixers, who were also hot to start this season. They won that game in the clutch, but honestly, it was just Cade coming up huge. He was handling ball pressure really well, getting into the paint, finding the open man. Because a lot of the guys out there for the Pistons were hesitant to shoot and screw up a possession late in that game. So despite the win, it didn't instill a ton of confidence in me. Felt very much like Cade was just the best player on the floor. Which again, I think he's taken a real leap this season. It probably won't give him gaudier numbers than he already has, but he's a better offensive engine for it, and I think he's firmly a top 15 player. Unfortunately, I just find it hard to trust damn near anyone else on this roster consistently, and I think against stiffer competition, this team's going to start to crack. So I feel pretty confident in calling Detroit's start to this season fair. Now, in fairness to the Pistons, Jaden Ivey and Marcus Sasser have yet to return, so this team can have more offensive firepower, but the org has been kind of vague about when they'll return, and let's be honest here, no disrespect, fellas, but is that really moving this team up anybody's rankings? Nonetheless, I just think the outpour of success early in this season doesn't really match the strides Detroit has actually taken. I certainly hope this doesn't sound like a hater's manifesto. All jokes aside, I firmly believe the Pistons are going to be a top 4 seed in the East at this rate and host a playoff series come April. Okay, that's going to do it for this one. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of the Pistons and their start to the season. If you agree or disagree, I'd love to have the conversation. Check me out on Twitter and Medium, TikTok too. That's going to do it for now. Stay safe and see you in the next one.